Morning boys and girls, brothers and sisters. I'm here to talk to you about the Dardania faction on Total War Troy. I'm here to tell you how to play as him. I'm here to help you try and make that decision on if this is a faction you guys want to go as in your campaign. I've been playing Troy for a little bit of time. The combat is new to me. The way they've decided to do that is a lot more fast paced, so I need to certainly scrub up on my Total War prowess, especially with the release of Troy. I've been half tempted a couple of times to go back to Attila or Thrones of Britannia and give the combat a bash on there, because it gives you a different sense of morale, with units not fucking routing and running back every 5 seconds, which seems to be a prominent theme within Troy. Here today I'm just going to quickly run through a lot of things. I'm going to talk us through obviously the commander himself, along with all of his units, ranging from his most elite, the Dardanian charger, defender and swordsman, fearless swordsman units, along with some of the more common stuff, e.g. the Dardanian rabble and the Dardanian mob, which is actually unique to Dardania. Obviously Achilles is here. I've put us on a kind of a bottleneck map, so it forces us into some combat, along with 4 units of his spear defenders. So it was a little scrap. It was a little challenge. Aeneas is the son of Aphrodite, second cousin to Priam. He ranks behind Hector in terms of Troy's military prowess, particularly high damage but low armour. Okay, we'll have a closer look at Aeneas towards the end of the video. I've heard he's actually a commanding unit and not a fighting unit, so the majority of his attributes and effects go towards powering up his troops and not himself, which I find quite useful given the fact that the morale, as I stated, is absolutely piss poor. This is your Dardanian mob. Nothing much to see here apart from that atrocious trim. Basic sword and shield infantry. There's probably factions that have very similar. Just checking if these guys have any increased perks over the standard mob and rabble. These guys have a little more armour, as can see with the leather pads. So I believe that'll probably factor in. Obviously we've got some coastal axe fighters. We've got some more dirty cheap units. Some young spears. Axe chargers, common for every faction. 2-handed axemen with a little bronze helmets on. The Anatolian mob, or Anatolian swords I should say. Common bread and butter cheap fighting units for Aeneas and the Dardania faction. They look pretty tough, pretty ready to go. They've got a bit more armour than the Dardanian mob units. Shieldless spears, I noticed these are quite a prominent addition in this game. You've got a lot of spear units without shields. Poor defense but good attack, so you'd use these as in kind of a flanking maneuver, which is not the typical Total War setup. They tend to hold the line pretty well while you move some of your lighter units, e.g. the Dardanian mob or the rabble, around the back and try and cut off their flank. In this, it appears that your spear units are your chargers. I imagine they probably move pretty quickly along the battlefield too. Dardanian spearmen, these guys look awesome. I imagine the defense is pretty good with these. As far as I know, formations aren't actually in the game, so we couldn't look at, well, formations, yes, no shield walls, no phalanxes, to my knowledge, as of yet anyway. They're your frontline troops, as stated. It's very important, pay attention to these traits that each unit has. It will make you pay for it. So we got some Dardanian sword fighters, ironically with wooden mallets. Nothing much to see there. Heavy Anatolian spearmen, bigger shields, so they can be our front line padding. Heavy Anatolian swords, much of the same. Renowned Dardanian sword fighters, more clubs, more 2-handed clubs, obviously a lot more armour, a bit slower to move. Dardanian offenders. Now these are your creme de la creme. They say swords, but it's club and shield infantry. I imagine the defense is pretty high, the damage is exquisite. Melee expert, special missile weapon as well, an excellent defense. So you stick those guys on your front line. Fearless swordsmen, experts in flanking. These guys are your battle line, and these guys are your flankers. Play this game right, and it will reward you with easily won battles. Play this game like I've been playing it, and it will reward you with 16 versus 20 stack defeats. Lots of them, lots of them. Heavy Anatolian skirmishers, pretty good. I'm pretty sure they're probably a decent melee combatant as well. They can hold their own. Skirmishers, obviously, medium weight class. And then the Anatolian slingers, which are the light renditions of... There's no heavy Anatolian slingers in this one. These are your melee chariots. Very Bronze Era. Very nicely done, very nicely designed. No fancy armour, just getting stuck in prodding someone with a spear. Obviously your archers are the same, think gladiator, 2 archers to each chariot, the driver. Now we can actually press space in this, which is a new feature they've added. If you hold down space, it will get rid of the foliage so you can see your units a little better. Combat animations in this are dimmed down a little. No one-on-one combat mechanics. I presume that's been replaced with the hero duels, which I think is a very neat feature. I'm a big fan. Of course, it wouldn't be a faction review without having a look at the campaign position, seeing where they start. So, as I stated earlier, the roster consists of cheap light units with a wave attacking strategy, as it states here. Until your big lads get there, keep smashing them. If they rout, don't matter. Keep throwing them in, which is what I found tends to be the tactic with the majority of factions on here, because the morale of the early units is shot, and they will run. Just pay attention to where they're running to and get them back in the battle as quickly as possible. Obviously, Dardania has a north-east starting position, pals with Troy, Paris, Hector, and Lycia, so it tends to be pretty favourable until obviously the nightmare crosses the Mediterranean. The Dardanian horde, enemies with a pesos, but they're a pretty standard first game enemy to get rid of. Starting situation is down as normal. Having done one as Paris, I'm pretty sure he's a bit more difficult. Divine Omens. Spend resources in a sacrifice to be given missions by the gods. Complete these missions to earn extra divine favour, which then earns you the favour of one of the gods. Stygian Voices. You can converse with dead heroes for their wisdom to gain a variety of effects. When you do, happiness and divine favour will drop. But as important heroes die in the war, you can converse with them also. For example, Priam or Hector. If Hector were to die, I'm sure I would be able to gain some abilities from him, for example. As you expand, you may come across ancient heroes finding resting places, which will allow you to converse with them. Now, this may be an ancient Grecian hero, an ancient Trojan hero, and it will let your character pick up certain traits based on who he's spoken to. Other than that, that is pretty much the faction guide. We've ran through units, we've ran through commander details, and we've ran through starting position and starting situation. Economy wise, it's all pretty samey. Swing some barter agreements and get your trade moving. You'll have a lot of friends, no matter what faction you start as on this game. Utilise those friends, maximise your resources. Other than that, I hope you enjoy hopefully thrilling one-on-one with Achilles at the end. Can the great Aeneas hold his own against the greatest military combatant believed to have walked the earth? We shall see. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you found this informational. If it's given you some insight on whether you want to play as Aeneas, as always, check back for more, because we'll aim to get as many of these rattled off as possible, so you guys have the clarity, knowledge and expertise that you need to field an army and have a successful campaign in Total War Troy.
Your hero is under attack. You are doomed! No match for me. Are you finished? Your warriors are losing heart. Come back and face me.